Welcome to the Challenges of Change, the podcast where we explore the transformative journey towards self-improvement and personal growth. I'm your host, Laura, a mindset coach in the health and fitness industry, here to guide you through the hurdles that life throws at you. In each episode, we'll delve into practical strategies and insightful discussions to help you manage stress, regulate your emotions, upgrade your mindset, and ultimately reclaim your sense of worth. I'm thrilled to have you join me on this journey of change, challenges, and self-discovery. And we're back for another episode of the Challenges of Change. And today we are going to talk about a challenge we all experience: misunderstanding. Whether we are being misunderstood or having a misunderstanding, if you live in this world, it's inevitable. But recognizing it, how we call it out, how we recognize it within ourselves, all of this is opportunity. Opportunity for us to decide who we want to become when we're faced with this type of challenge. Given the fact that we are all human beings, which means we are creatures of belonging and we crave connection, being able to be seen and understood is crucial to that. So let's look at misunderstandings with others second, actually. I was going to start there, but you know what? I'm going to keep you on your toes. We're going to start there second. We are going to start with misunderstandings we have with ourselves because they influence the misunderstandings we have with others. So how do you even recognize when you're having an internal misunderstanding? I feel like I just set myself up for the biggest what ever, but it's not super simple. There are so many complex layers of what creates understanding, what understandings are still true, the reality of is it our understanding or something that was given to us from someone that we love. So let me give you an example. I had a client tell me recently that she's in her anxious season. And I was like, what does that mean? Like, I know what anxiety is. I know what feeling anxious is, but season? Huh? And she was telling me how she really likes skiing. And so she was looking forward to the cold weather so she could go skiing. And she was feeling all this extra energy. And I was like, okay, that doesn't necessarily mean anxious, though. That's just extra energy. So I asked her, what is she worrying about? I know this client's brain, she tends to plan a bunch of things in the future. And she couldn't tell me anything that she was worrying about, at least not associated with that state. And I was like, so are you actually anxious? And she said she wasn't sure. So we looked at the feeling wheel. Yes, mine is laminated and double-sided because why not? Right? Why not? Makes it easier for me to understand myself. And ultimately, what we realized was she was excited and eager. And because the eagerness was there, it felt so similar to anxiety that rather than looking at, is this actually something I'm feeling anxious about? She just labeled it my anxious season and had been experiencing this heightened state of agitation in her body for at least 2 weeks because she was labeling it that. So this is an internal misunderstanding because we don't really check in with ourselves. We don't look to clarify or define things for ourselves. And it's one of the easiest ways to regulate ourselves, if you ask me. We are so automatic and just moving so fast that we don't slow down and pause and consider, like, is this true? Is this what I'm feeling? Is this really what my experience is? And I get why, because we live in an urgent culture, but we're the ones who pay the price. We send ourselves on dysregulated, stressful journeys all because it feels similar to something and we're not curious enough within ourselves. So part of misunderstandings a huge part of it starts with us, the individual person, and how clear you're being with yourself. When I'm training my coaches on how to coach other people, one of the first things I tell them is never make an assumption and always make them define things. Because your understanding of what anxiety is, your understanding of what could get fired means, that doesn't necessarily mean you're on the same page. And a huge part of coaching, if we're trying to get in their brain, is understanding how is their brain interpreting this to begin with. And simply by making them define things, it immediately creates clarity. So if you feel like you're stuck in this anxious, stressful, urgent, whatever it is, if you're just stuck in a certain state, get curious with yourself. Try and define what is this? Well, how do I know that this is anxiety, not excitement? How do I know that this is stress and not worry or discernment? There's so much subtlety in the differences in how we experience the language. So I have a lot of empathy and understanding as to why we group it that way. But this is about how we want to face these challenges. No one likes being misunderstood. We don't even like misunderstanding ourselves, and we don't like feeling like we don't have a sense of control over ourselves or that we can't manage ourselves. Well, how can we if we don't understand ourselves? There's so much complexity. So, above all else, if you find yourself in regular situations where you're being misunderstood, look in the mirror. Are you actually understanding and very clear about what you mean? Because when we're engaging with another and we feel misunderstood, that hurts. It sucks. I hate being misunderstood. And a part of my journey was learning in the beginning, I had to be like, okay, wait, I keep having these misunderstanding moments. What's going on? Where am I not being clear? Rather than looking to blame the other, what am I not doing? Because quite frankly, that's the only thing I can change. And what I realized was I was using really broad language that I thought was clear, but they were having different understandings. So getting on the same page before I answer questions and having people clarify what they mean by things, I can't tell you the number of disagreements that it's minimized. So whether you're approaching the holidays and wanting to have some lovely connected moments or trying to be a better leader, asking people questions to help them to understand their world better makes people feel cared for. It's one of the easiest things that we can do as a manager, as a CEO, as a parent, as a friend, as a kid, to your parents, anyone. Just ask them about themselves, help them understand themselves, help you understand them. And most importantly, start with you. Ask you. Okay, so understanding yourself starts with you getting curious about what's going on, why you're labeling things, etc. Now, I bet you guys don't really think about this because why would you? But when you're me, or when you're a coach or a mindset specific coach, what happens in my brain when I'm dealing with my own stuff is really fascinating. It can be a circus, it can be a ballet, it can be everything in the middle. But the main thing that I've learned is like my homeostasis, it keeps me centered and grounded, is something called metacognition. And it's kind of a advanced way of understanding yourself, I suppose. More often than not, it's correlated with learning. So if you even Google metacognition or Google, no, chat metacognition now, you'll see it's teaching different, like how you can learn in school is typically how they think about it. But it's all about learning. So it's not just school learning, you can also learn about you. So what you're doing with metacognition is ultimately looking at the motivation. So not just clarifying and defining what you mean with what you're saying within yourself, but understanding why you're saying it to begin with. And this has been the thing that's kept me grounded because when you have the skills that I have as a mindset coach, for instance, or even if you're a therapist or even if you're an empath, like you are tuned to different information that other people typically aren't. So you have this wealth of knowledge, but not everyone wants to know what you know. And it's a really fast way to make sure people will stay away from you if you're always telling them about themselves. So understanding why people are saying things, especially understanding why you are saying things, helps you understand what you need. And this is huge when it comes to disagreements and arguments, especially because so often we're not even arguing about the thing we're arguing about, but we're misunderstanding what we're arguing about to begin with, aka metacognition. So let's see. Okay. I'm not feeling great. I have a cold. I don't know if you can tell by my voice, but my nose isn't as clogged today, but still feeling very, very lethargic. And yesterday, I was faced with a challenge. Do I cancel my remaining clients for the day and go home and rest, which I desperately needed because I was caffeinating out my butt and still felt like a zombie. But I also feel this huge dedication to my clients. It's such an honor that they are vulnerable and open and trust me. So I was gone at a conference last week, so I didn't get to see anyone. So I was feeling really committed to seeing my people. And so I checked in with myself and I noticed this kind of push-pull of what was happening. I wanted to show up for my people. I wanted to help them. But I also could tell my body genuinely needed rest. Like I was having mental fog. I was having a hard time connecting dots, and that's like my super skill. So like if that's not there, am I even going to be able to serve them? And so it was just this ping pong match in my brain. I was like, hold on, metacognition to the rescue. And I asked myself, where did I learn this? Where did I learn to push through when I don't feel well? And I was an athlete growing up. And they had a very simple rule. If you don't practice, you don't play. And it makes sense. If you aren't well enough to practice, one, you're not going to be well enough to play. But even if you are feeling better when the game comes, you're out of practice compared to all the other players, so you don't get to play. Makes sense, right? Well, my bullhead brain growing up was I want to play, so whether I practice or not, or whether I feel sick or not, I'm going to go to practice because it's not worth missing a game. So I learned very early on, if you want what you want, which I want to play the game, you push through the sickness. And I always got over it. Did it, extend sickness at times? Probably, but I don't honestly remember because I got over it. And what I remember are the games. So here I am. Okay, that makes sense. I learned to push through in that circumstance. I'm not a teenager anymore. I got many more decades under my belt. My body doesn't recover as quickly. And the game I'm playing is very different. This isn't a hand-eye coordination thing where I can just pick it up second hat. This is mental agility. That's a lot of what coaching is. Doing physical task things when I'm sick kind of requires a different skill set than what coaching is. And that was kind of the difference that I noticed when I was thinking about it. And so then metacognition is understanding the motivation of the resistance of why you're doing this, why you're not doing this, what's pulling you in all the directions. So I then asked myself, okay, if this is a difference and this is who I'm trying to become, someone who's aligned, someone who's curious, someone who takes care of themselves, understanding doing so has more to give. What is the aligned decision? And it was very obvious to me that it was to take a break. And yet I was still stuck in resistance. And so I finally went with, what am I afraid is going to happen? And the answer was that I was going to let people down. So the whole reason that I was stuck in this cycle of do I cancel? Do I not? Do I take care of myself? Do I not? Was because I was afraid of letting my people down. And honestly, I don't know if I did. I don't know if my people are upset with me. They said they're not. People get sick. If my hairstylist canceled on me, I'm not upset. If my coach canceled on me, she has. I'm not upset because I get it. Is it a bummer sometimes? Sure, but people get sick. And that's the thing that I have to continually come to terms with. So all that to say, when you're trying to understand yourself, whether it's overcoming guilt, standing by your values, knowing how to lead yourself, rather than just looking at the problem and trying to solve, go behind the problem. Understand why the problem is curated into that special cocktail of a problem to begin with. And then it gives you more knowledge so you can actually find the right solution versus solve for a problem that's not really the problem. So that's like super skill, metacognition, understanding stuff. Now, let's go to understanding with others. For assumption's sake, let's say you already did some of the stuff we talked about and you understand yourself. Yay. Good job. Keep it up. I see you. But the other person may or may not understand themselves. That's not our responsibility and we can't really control that. So, how do we recognize when someone else is having a misunderstanding with us, whether we're misunderstanding what they're saying or they're misunderstanding what I'm saying, right? Look for the space in the middle. Is there any active listening? Are they acknowledging anything you're saying? Are they bringing into what they're saying anything that you're saying? Are they just volleying the ball back to you? If that's the case and you're the one catching it, it's telling you, one, they're probably not in a mental space to even hear you. Because when the emotional brain is on, it doesn't quiet until it feels seen. It's like a kid. I use this example all the time with with my clients. If your kid says there's a monster under the bed, even if you tell them there's no monster under the bed, they don't believe you until you get on your knees and look under the bed. They might ask you again 10 minutes later when the fear repurposes or resurfaces. And yet again, you got to get down, make sure there's no monster under the bed, right? We can't outthink our emotions per se. We need to work with them. So if you recognize someone is just volleying the ball back to you, their tone of voice is getting more sassy, their volume is increasing, their pace of speech is increasing. These are all tells that someone is increasing in an agitated state, and they're probably not going to be listening to you. They need to be understood. Whether you have the ability to understand them becomes the second thing you have to assess. Can I hold space? Can I hear what they have to say? Can I active listen back? Am I activated or am I regulated? If you are activated, you just need to say, I think we're having a misunderstanding and I can feel myself being agitated right now. So I just need a few minutes so that I don't take it out on you because I have too much respect for you. And then take 5 minutes and come back, right? Or if you are in a space where you have capacity, call it out. I think we're having a misunderstanding. Can I tell you what I'm hearing from you? And yes, it's technically like a permission question, but they need to say yes because it's also telling you where they are. They're going to say whatever they're going to say. You may agree, you may disagree. This is not the point to agree nor disagree. When you're trying to come from misunderstanding into understanding, this isn't opinion validation. This is, am I hearing the words you're trying to communicate to me accurately? Which is what verbal backtracking is and active listening. So if someone says you're not getting the details of the project correct, you might come back like, okay, I hear that there's something about what I'm giving you in the project that feels like there's something missing and it's detail specific. Is that right? Notice I didn't use the exact same languages, but I said the same thing and I asked for confirmation of understanding. Now, one of two things is going to happen with a person in that state. They are either going to say yes and go on with the other components of it, or they're going to say, they're not even going to say yes, they're just going to build on the misunderstanding. In that case, try and understand one more time with the active listening. If they still say no, say, okay, I think we need a break because they're too dysregulated and they're just going to build and build and build and build because they're in that agitated state. So this is emotional intelligence through leadership just as much as it is being able to understand people. So let's say they are able to say yes, and these are the details specifically that you're missing. You'd be like, okay, so you needed the dates of these things and the measurements of these things between this date range. Is that right? And they'll say yes. You're like, okay, I think we're on the same page now. Can I tell you where I'm feeling misunderstood? Again, asking for confirmation. And then you can say, I didn't know these were the specifics that you needed when you originally communicated with me. You said this, and this was my understanding of that. So in the future, I don't want this. You don't want this. How should we communicate to make sure that we're on the same page with the assignment that we're being given? And then you can kind of go from there. But when you find yourself in a misunderstanding, you need to call it out with someone because it stops them just as much as it stops you. Agitation, that active body language, it's a really good tell. Use it. Like, I think we're having a misunderstanding. Let's take a step back. And then if they can work with you, it's, bumps that spike if you're a volleyball player, but you're just throwing the ball back and forth, not batting the ball back and forth. There's a difference between catching and throwing versus smacking back and forth. Smacking back and forth is just arguing. Catching is hearing, understanding, and then this is my understanding back to you. Is that right? Throw the ball. Yes. This is what I don't feel understood with. But this is what I understand of what you said. Is that right? Yes. And around we go. Hopefully that makes sense. If you're only listening to this, the video might make more sense, but nonetheless, if they can hear you, active listening, using different words, try to find a way to make sure you're communicating better next time because we are not responsible to make sure that they understand themselves. but nobody likes to feel misunderstood. We are responsible to make sure that we are understood, that our message is being communicated. And how can we do that if we're not clear with ourselves? So it really does start with us understanding ourselves, why we're feeling what we're feeling, why we're labeling what we're labeling, why we're associating it negatively or positively, and being able to discern and lead ourselves from that space. And then when you get into different states with people, you have to be able to recognize, are they in a calm, regulated state, or are they heightened and emotional? And sometimes they're going to be heightened and emotional, and you're going to be scared to stand your ground. And that's fair and that's valid. And you have to decide what type of suffering you want with that, because sure, you can not engage with it and you can stay in that scared space, but it's not going to help with any understandings, and it's just going to create more toxicity. At a certain point, we have to be willing to move through our fear for the betterment and the growth of what we want to become. And I think that starts with self-respect and self-curiosity. Understanding ourselves, our stuff, not our parents' stuff, not culture stuff, not our friends' stuff, not our boss's stuff, but our stuff. It's the best way to lead yourself to a fulfilling life. And it's hard, which is why I invite you to join me and all the other amazing members in the Challenger Circle. This is the place where people who are high achievers on a tight deadline or tight time schedule, who want to improve themselves, want to improve their emotional intelligence, and a handful of other challenges, come together and grow together through each other's stories. We unite and we learn and we practice different skills. We have guest exercises. We have, or guest speakers, I should say. We have group coaching, one-on-one coaching, and peer-to-peer sharing. So the holidays are around the corner. Families are fantastic and challenging. So be a challenger and be the change that you want to see, because you can't control them, but you can control you. Understand yourself. Be courageous enough for it. But that's all I have. So I will see you next time. Keep it real. Thank you for joining me on today's episode of The Challenges of Change. If you're ready to stop stressing and reclaim your sense of worth, be sure to visit my website at www.changebychallenge.com. There, you'll find loads of resources, blog posts, and information on how to work with me, Laura, as your personal mindset coach. Remember, if it doesn't challenge you, it won't change you. Don't let burnout or any other obstacle hold you back from living your best life. Take the first steps towards positive transformation today. Thank you again for listening. Stay confident, stay inspired, and embrace the challenges of change. Until next time.